Hello and welcome to our third tutorial. This is for students in BIFE who are studying the 3D game design course. In this tutorial we'll have a look at basic modeling and using a few interesting tools to help us use a technique called lathing, which is a term used in woodwork to make cylindrical objects like the leg of a chair or a post from a lamp. So what we're going to make in Blender is we're going to make a wine glass. So the first thing I want is a reference image. So I'm just going to type in wine glass, go to images, and I can select any of these. Normally if you were going to use a reference image you would make sure that it was copyright free. That's if you're going to include it in your finished project, but this is just a tutorial so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to click on view image, and for what we're trying to do today this is fine. The bottom of this glass isn't ideal for what we want, but all we want is the basic shape. So we'll be using this image almost like as if you're using tracing paper. We're just going to use it as an outline. I'm going to save this to my desktop, and then I'm going to launch Blender. So again, this is our default interface. We have our camera, our cube, and our light. We can right click on them to select. We are going to press with our mouse over the 3D viewport the N key. That opens the property window for the 3D viewport. At the bottom of this is background images. So we can open this, press add image, and then open. Navigate to our desktop and bring in our image. Now it has been added in, but we can't see it. The reason for that is if you are using 3D software, if the image was visible now, you wouldn't be able to use it as a reference because the angle that you're looking at it would change as you modeled. So you need the image sort of parallel to the z-axis or the y-axis or the x-axis. So we need to change from user perspective to front orthographic. So to do that we press on the numpad the number 1 key and then the number 5 key. Now we're in front orthographic, and now we can see our image. So in Blender you can select all the various objects that are in the window or in the 3D viewport. So at the moment we have 3 objects. If I had 10 cubes I could select each one individually, and then if I wanted to change the shape or size of one of them I would change mode. So here it says object mode, where we have individual objects that we're manipulating, and then we can go to edit mode, and edit mode is to change the shape of any one object. It doesn't work on everything, it doesn't work on lights or cameras, you can't edit them, but on the meshes that we'll use to make all of our game assets we can go into edit mode. So let's just have another look at this cube. So this cube is now malleable. We can change the shape of it. I can right click on the different vertices. If you look up here it says 1 of 8 because 1 is selected. If I hold down the shift key and select another one it says 2 of 8. So we can select each individual vertex. If I wanted to move one of them I can go G, and G is for grab in Blender, and I could left click and put it into a new position. So right click on the vertex, G, move, left click. So we can change the shape of our object. But what we want to do at the moment is we want to get all of these vertices and then just merge them all into one. So to do that, and to deselect this vertex, I'm going to press the A key. So A is for select all, but it's also for deselect all. So I go A, everything is selected, A, deselected, A, selected, deselected, selected, ad infinitum. So now, to merge all of these in one location, all of these vertices, I'm going to use a menu called a specials menu in Blender. So I'm going to press the W key, and I'm going to use this tool here, merge. It says where would you like to merge, and I'm just going to say at the center. So now I have one vertex. I'm going to go back to my front orthographic mode, or view, and now I have my one vertex here. So again, I can use G to move this, and then left click to confirm its new position. So G, left click, G, left click, and I'm going to place that just on the rim of the glass. And what I want to do is I want to trace the outline of the glass. So in order to create new geometry, I'm going to use a tool or a function in Blender called Extruding. And to extrude is to add on. So with this vertex selected, I just press E for extrude, move the mouse after I've pressed the key, and I have this new connected vertex. And if I left click, I've put it in a new position. I don't want it over there, I want it on the side. So I'm going to press G and move it into position, and then left click. Now I'm going to use the E key again, extrude. Left click, E, move, left click, E, move, left click, and so on. All the way down the stem of the glass. Now, what we're making here is just an approximation, so I'm not going to follow this curve at the bottom. I'm going to go out to the rim, I'm going to go down, and then back in to this blue line, this vertical line. So I'm going to turn off my background image now, just so we can see the geometry that we've made. And there it is. Now I can press A to deselect, and A again, and it's easier to see when it's all highlighted. So this is the outline of the glass that we've made. And what I want to use now is a lathing tool. So I want to spin this around to make it look like a glass. And over here in our toolbar, there's a tool called Spin. Now when I click on these tools, their properties appears down here. So I'm just going to make this window a tiny bit bigger, because we'll have a few properties of spin. Now if I spin now, it'll spin in this direction. So what we'll end up with is, well, nonsense. To undo that nonsense, it's a basic Windows function. It's Control Z is undo. So if you ever do anything in Blender, so G, move it to the wrong position, I don't want it over there, I want to bring it back to where it was, you just press Control Z. So what we want to do is we want to look from the top, so top down. So I'm going to press 7. And now we're going to use this spin tool. Now if we're slightly off, if we're looking at the wrong angle, this won't work. So we must press 7 and be in top orthographic. And with all of these selected, so if they're not selected, the tool won't work. So with all of the vertices selected, press the spin button here. And what we now have is a quarter of our glass. And the reason there's only a quarter is because in our properties here of the tool, we've only spun 90 degrees. So we need to make this 360. And now we have a wine glass. Now it says steps 9. So we can increase the number of steps and it will make the circle here at the top smoother and the whole geometry smoother. So let's increase the number of steps. And as you can see, the more geometry I add in, the smoother it looks. In game design, the amount of geometry that you use is really important. If you walked in a first player game into a dining room and it had 40 glasses on the table and each glass had thousands of vertices in it, and the game would become unplayable. The computer wouldn't be able to locate every single vertex in every frame. So we try and keep the amount of geometry in each object low so that the computer has less work to do. So at the moment we have 18 steps here, and for what we're doing now, that's plenty. So now I'm going to go back to object mode, and that's my wine glass. Now we have one last thing we're going to do while we're modeling now, and you can see every face on this object, on this wine glass, which makes it look not like a wine glass. So over here it says shading, and at the moment it's set to flat. Everything is set to flat by default, so we're just going to hit smooth, and it should get rid of these lines. And while this is not a work of art and not beautiful, it is a very basic and simple wine glass. So if you want to save this, we're going to go File, Save As, and we'll put this on our desktop, and we'll call this wine glass. And I'll hit save. I'm going to minimize Blender, and then this is what we are left with. So this is a blend file. So when we come back to this computer again for our next session, we can double click on this file and it will open up, and we will see our model again. Blender will have saved all of the geometry, its location, and any properties that it might have. So for our first attempt to model something, that's it's simple, but also there's a lot of steps in it. So practice making this wine glass and see how smooth you can make it, and see what the vertex count is. So I'm going to edit mode, select everything. So in this version of a wine glass, I have 247 vertices. Okay, thank you.